So again, we're back to the language element of all of this. We're back to the use of language and how really as a society we misuse language with our understanding. So how do we get around that?
It's part of a much bigger trend. Victimhood and victimization have become bon ton. They have become the new thing.
Yeah, it's like a
They've
badge of
become
honor.
a fad. They're a
Yeah.
fad. They're a fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is trying to find a victimhood niche. You're a victim because of your sex.
Why do you think that is? Do you think we're so starved of connection in our world today? It's almost like, where can I gain connection, so to speak? This is how I'm going to gain connection, because then they feel part of something. It validates them being part of something bigger, because we are so isolated now.
I think belonging and acceptance have something to do with it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it raises the question, why would you choose to belong to a victimhood club? Why not belong to a superior club? And so on.
But again, isn't the use of that word, belonging to a victimhood, isn't that the choice of our language with that? Isn't it a kind of a hope club, in that it's validating you're not the only one? We misuse language with our understanding. Do you not think that is a sweeping statement of everybody, that everybody then who becomes a victim of narcissistic abuse almost wants to wear that as a badge of honor for the rest of their life?
No, not everyone. Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say, because I find that I get, and again, this goes on the journey in some respects, that initially, of course, being around other people, because you suddenly realize, hey, this isn't just me. This didn't just happen to me in this world because of me. And it starts to open people's eyes to recognize it is about them, not them as the victim, so to speak, that there are reasons why. Because surely then, if this happens to other people in, yes, different ways, but sort of, similarities, then that surely must mean then it isn't about me. And that starts this process then of understanding from themselves and also from the narcissist, so that they can move beyond all of that too. I just see it as part of a process, so to speak. But I think it needs to be made more aware. I think we need more awareness.
For some people, it's a part of.
We misuse language with our understanding.
For some people, it's a part of the process.
I do.
But the majority of victims online have been online for 4 years or 6 years. Yeah. People brag that they've been watching narcissism videos for 6 years.
But again, do you not feel like that is a judgment of them, of that they are?
I am judging them. Yeah. It's bad, pathological, correct. It's grandiose, it's narcissistic to remain a victim for life and to be proud of it.
And I agree with you on that.
Of course I'm judging them.
but again, from a judgment perspective, is that actually, if we're judging somebody else, does that not say more about us than the person themselves? Because if we want to help them without judgment and actually support them in this, to maybe get them out of that victimhood mentality, so to speak, is us judging them conducive to the environment for that?
No, I'm not.
We misuse language with our understanding. Do you not think then, with everything you are saying, and again we go back to the medicalization, the DSM, whether it be codependent, narcissist, borderline, empath, any of those things, that really what we should always be looking at is root cause. It starts with you as the self, and then we look at that understanding then of the dynamics then of that relationship. And if you're happy, great, carry on, so to speak, as long as obviously, there's a duty of care if there's danger, so to speak, involved. But other than that, do you think we need more education then around people recognizing the sense of self, of what, like you say, being happy, creating those boundaries, recognizing that regardless of what somebody is as a label, so to speak, it's all irrelevant. It's all irrelevant. It's actually about
But there's a barrier to this education. The investment in victimhood as a defining dimension of identity is a barrier to education.
We misuse language with our understanding. But do you not think then, what's the root cause then of that victimhood? Where does that come from? Because when I think, and I totally agree with the majority of what you're saying, it's almost like, but if that person then is sitting in that victimhood mentality, why? Why are they doing that? Where's that coming from?
They don't want to find out why.
Correct.
It threatens their...
But there will be some that do. And I get, just like a narcissist, just like somebody else, you can't help someone who doesn't recognize that there's a situation that they need to be helped from. You can only help someone if they say, hey, you know, something isn't right, I'm not happy, I need some support with all of it.
Even more basic, you can't help someone.
We misuse language with our understanding. But do you not think that's because we've put so much to these labels because we see them as bad, and they don't want, no one wants to see themselves as bad, so to speak. And again, if we're looking down to the root cause of it rather than labeling, and because these words hold so much weight.
No, not even that. Okay, I'm sorry, I gave the wrong examples. They are not interested to learn, for example, what role they had. Yeah, what contributions they made.
Ownership and responsibility.
Yeah, they refuse. Yeah. They absolutely refuse. It's adamant, it's aggressive, it's violent, and it's vile.
But isn't that then, when we look at the narcissist, on exactly the same level, the ownership and responsibility, and we look at, you know, if we're coming, and I try and do this, you know, I try and look at things from a place of compassion, because I know if I'm not getting curious and being compassionate about a situation, I'm not as myself. I'm bringing other past stuff into the equation of what I am saying. You know, it's past experiences that are showing up, so that if we can try, and obviously who knows when this would ever happen in our world, so to speak, that if we can try and look at everybody with compassion but curiosity as well, to gain understanding. Doesn't mean it excuses behavior, but to gain explanation. But it just seems like, again, that our society is filled with judgment, lack of compassion. You know, words hold so much weight. There is no ownership and responsibility, so to speak, which is okay if that's how people want to be at the end of the day. But then how do we move forward then in a space where those that do want to be helped, that do want to take ownership, that do want to take responsibility, they do recognize things aren't right, how can we support them better? We misuse language with our understanding. But do you not then see, even with what you're saying there, from that judgment perspective, because of your past experiences, what you feel in that moment is being projected onto them? Like you say, you know, I have this, you know, hatred of religion, etc. And, you know, I agree, I'm not a religious person, but equally, I wouldn't necessarily get into a debate. I'd happily debate it, but it certainly wouldn't bring up in me that need to show them how wrong they are, because that would then mean I am right. And not even necessarily in the right wrong status of all of that. It's, you know, it's almost like, in a society, why does someone have to believe and feel and think what I think? Okay, so why do you feel the need then, say from a religious perspective, to get them to know how stupid they are? I agree with you. I agree. You know, I do a lot of somatic work in what I do. And again, from the cognitive perspective, you can say you're good enough till you're blue in the face, but it's not necessarily going to change what you feel in all of that. You know, you have to work on that element. And I think, like you say, from a talking therapy perspective, of course it has a place, because you've got someone listening to you, validating your experiences. But is it actually going to get to the root cause of all of that as well? And I think, you know, just everything you've highlighted, Sam, I think it's just down to more education and almost live and let live, if that's how people want to be, if that's what they want to behave like. But creating platforms, I hope, like I do, like you do, that people can realize that it doesn't have to necessarily be like that. This is about you, and there is an opportunity for you to learn and grow and live, you know, the best life you can possibly do. And if people want to sit in the tribes and the victimhoods and everything else, then that's okay. I think the sad part for me in all of this is thinking that we misuse language with our understanding. If people are sitting in that victimhood mentality, so to speak, why are they doing that? What has led them to feel that and accept in some respects that that's good enough for them to live their life like that. And that's what I find sad in all of this, that the people who do, and they do, absolutely, they say sitting in victimhood for the rest of their life. And there's that element for me where I think, wow, they think that that life they're living, and again, that's me almost assuming that they're living less of a life because they're sat like that, that they feel like their life is only worthy of that, because there is so much more out there for us to live, enjoy, you know, connect, talk to other people. And I just think we misuse language with our understanding. We misuse language with our understanding.